Welcome to this week's edition of Business Insight. In today's show, we focus on matters antivirus. Ever thought about protecting your cell phone or your laptop or even your computer? We are honored this week in the show to have the East African ESET East Africa CEO, Alistair Freeman, to just give us an insight on all about their antiviruses and all about this kind of a business. Welcome to the show. I'm Victoria Amunga. Someone is definitely asking, what about ESET? Would you take us through your journey of this kind of a business?
It's a premium antivirus provider, and we focus traditionally on obviously on all endpoint products, and specifically for I think the Kenyan market is the focus that we're putting on the mobile device protection. ESET as a company as a whole covers a broad range of security, and the ESET East Africa component of our business covers all aspects beyond antivirus. So we have DLP, MDM solutions, we have a vast array of products, and we talk about ourselves as a holistic security offering more than just product, but really these services and controls that need to be placed in a business, not just the antivirus component.
You're into this business of antivirus on mobile phones and computers and laptops. What is the kind of penetration that we have?
I suppose if we look at the sort of global stats of viruses as a whole, I think the most prevalent, and it's probably quite expected, the most prevalent area, ranked 16th in the world at the moment, is Nigeria. The next biggest market is South Africa, and over the last year, South Africa has actually had a massive downturn in that it's moved from about, I think it's moved from 52nd place down up to 25th place in terms of prevalence of malware. Kenya's actually had a really good year. Kenya is ranked about in the high 70s, whereas a year ago it was in the high 40s. So Kenya up there, top 3, but I think what's important is that for the first time, mobile malware is up in the top 10 of global malware issues to be aware of. So from our perspective, Kenya top 3 really up there in terms of malware. It's something that we obviously just need to focus on.
So how do I make sure that my phone is protected? What's the process of protecting this cell phone with the antivirus that you're offering?
Okay, no problem. So I mean, I think the ability to protect your phone, I think the first thing, before I even tell you how to do it, I think you need to consider that when you buy a phone, you've effectively bought a laptop. And you need to think of it like a laptop. Whereas 5 years ago, you would not even bat an eyelid when you bought that laptop that it came pre-configured with some form of antivirus. What's happening now is that the majority of Kenyans specifically are buying these devices without this configured and not even considering it. So I think to get it, it's as easy as going to the sort of app store. In my case, downloading ESET. It pre-configures itself. It's a 2-minute setup, and that'll immediately protect your endpoint security. And what's important is that antivirus is moving to obviously pure antivirus protection and malware, but there are very specific things that you would want on an endpoint device. So if I just touch on some of the key features that you need to think about, like from an ESET perspective, you'll have things like application audit capabilities that look at all the apps that somebody downloads, because that's one of the big inroads from a malware perspective, is where people will download certain applications that allow access to areas, to your prior browsing history, to your phone book, and this will immediately highlight areas where, well, why is this application wanting access to this and that, and it highlights the kind of risk. It also looks at how you've set your mobile phone up, and sort of immediately saying, look, you've turned this setting off, it exposes you to this level of security. Other things, very specific to the business environment, if a mobile device gets lost, you must be able to locate that device, but more important than that, you need to be able to remote wipe it. That's something else to consider. And then the sort of from a social engineering perspective, the anti-phishing component, which is embedded into that as well. So it's as quick, it literally takes 2 minutes, download it, and the ability, it'll be on your phone in 5 minutes.
The market is widely dominated by Kaspersky. How do you intend, to break through this kind of market that is well known for Kaspersky?
Kaspersky is well entrenched in this market, and I think what we're going to look at is we're going to do what we think is done best. We're not going to focus on what Kaspersky are doing. I think what we're looking to do is to rather than focusing on the product, what we want to bring to the market from an ESET East Africa perspective is real expertise in this, so that we can advise end users and large corporates and clients on what do they need to consider. I want to touch on just two sort of stats that might be really important. So the kind of things that, since you're in this market, you start to understand, what is the most prevalent malware. There's two I just wanted to touch on today. One's called Hummingbird, and it happened to be the third most prolific malware in the course of the last year in Kenya, and it's focused purely on Android devices, and again it's focused on corporate, accessing corporate networks. So in a situation where you have a company and the directors have all the email and access to network via those phones, it has things like keyloggers on it to steal corporate credentials. It has the ability to bypass encrypted email containers. So it is specifically designed for that environment, and being the third most prevalent set of malware is something that you look. And again, being here allows us to understand that and make sure that our software can address that. Another one which is starting to become much more prominent is something called Timber, and it is focused on online banking. So what it does is it's what we call overlay malware, or a Trojan. And when you're accessing your normal online banking site, this is what it does. It's obviously embedded in, it's obviously embedded in your tool beforehand. It logs your password and your access key. But when you have in most banking environments, you've got a two-factor authentication. So they'll send you an OTP. What this Trojan actually does is it actually stops you receiving it, and it comes to your phone, but they immediately send it to a third party. Now they have your credentials, they have your OTP, and immediately they're into your banking. So what we're looking at is understanding that at a much better level. We're and speaking to the CIOs of the business and seeing what keeps them up at night, and providing a lot more around service and overall advice. And like I said, looking at much more than just an antivirus perspective, looking at it from an overall internet security perspective. And with that higher level of service, these product sales will come, and we've seen that in other larger markets.
You're here offering this kind of services of antivirus. Why would someone trust you? Why would I buy this product from you? What different thing are you gonna do for the Kenyan market? There's and I always talk about this, the biggest risk for me from an internet security perspective is the human element. I can sell you the best antivirus. I can sell you ESET, which I do believe is the best antivirus. I can sell you the best firewalls on the market. I can sell you the best DLP solutions on the market. But the fact of the matter is that if I'm able to spearfish your employees and get admin access to your service, none of those technologies are going to help. And it's for me, the security awareness side of things is so important. So for me, I'm not going to just come and try and sell somebody a specific product set without truly understanding what's going on. And like I said, what we're trying to do by being here is understanding the local trends. I mean, we're from a global perspective, we see huge amounts of data, and as we see as we sort of malware rankings of, say, Kenya, we're starting to see that change, and we're seeing a real decrease increase in the number of threats from South African Kenya. From South African. Are Kenyans aware that they actually need antivirus for their cell phone? Because most people will just think of their laptops and computers, but how about the cell phone?
I would say that Kenyans are very tech savvy. They absolutely know how to use technology, but I think the consideration that with the more technology you have on your mobile device, the need to protect is not quite there. So, just in the conversations we've been here almost a year now. In the conversations I've had, I would go as far as to say that probably 75 to 85% of the people I have a conversation with are quite happy to do all their transactions on a phone without any form of antivirus. So, in terms of what I've seen, I would say there's certainly an awareness that possibly there's solutions out there, but an understanding of the risks that they're currently being exposed to, I'd probably say no. I think there's a lot more that needs to be done around this, and I think it's much more around awareness training, just getting that awareness out there, as opposed to just selling someone a product. They need to understand that I can sell them an antivirus product, but if they're going to open a link to a fake site, I can't do anything about that. They've effectively bypassed the technology, and no technology is going to stop something like ransomware, as an example, to a phone. So what needs to go out with that message around needing some form of barrier in the form of software is you need to understand how a hacker thinks, and you need to understand what you can't do specifically from a social engineering perspective.
We've had a number of investors coming into the country and setting up their businesses here. How do you see the business environment in this country, in doing a business and investing here in general?
Very exciting environment, and I think so I sort of say I have no concerns. I think what I'm really excited about is that being here now, having an office now with a contingent of local Kenyans, we're starting to understand that environment, and we're realizing that Kenyans want to do business like Kenyans. They don't want a global distributor or a foreigner to come in there and try and do business in a way that Kenyans don't do it. So we're actually at a point now where we understand how Kenyan business works and how the broader East African business environment works. So we're fairly confident and really excited about it, actually. I think the realization that you've got to think like a Kenyan, simple things like a Kenyan, when he buys ESET, when he wants technical support, he wants a Kenyan to be able to assist him, and we're in that position now, which is great, and that's making a huge difference to our overall business, and getting some real momentum.
We've seen quite a number of people when they start this kind of business, and there are people who are always ready to counterfeit whatever product is brought in the market. How are you going to deal with this kind of a risk?
Products that are coming into the East African market that are sourced outside of our region. So we'd often see, and we see that a lot with other vendors, products come in from the Middle East and so forth. From a business perspective, this is something that we're looking at. At the end of the day, I'm satisfied that the clients, albeit a product I didn't sell to them, they're getting a good product. So if somebody gets ESET from, say, the Middle East, it's not ideal, but at least I know they have the correct product. I can engage with them and sell them a product from our region. At least they're getting a top grade product, and it's not a counterfeit.
How do I get to know that my phone actually has been affected? Because most people would not even have an idea that probably their phone has been affected.
Well, you won't know. I mean, I think I tell you what what I didn't touch on is there's some variants that are out there that are not driven at data. So what I touched on was a lot of sort of like corporate, trying to access a corporate network. There's some sort of SMSs out all the time which you pay for, so which will come off your bill. So that's how they make revenue. The other ones that you'll have, the obvious kind of one that I'll have is if you get some sort of strain of mobile ransomware, you'll immediately know you have it because you're not going to be able to get into it. So the other thing is if you start seeing adverts pushed towards you, you start getting a proliferation of people coming to you around things that you didn't sign up for.
Apart from the counterfeits, which it's definitely driving businesses big losses, what are some of the issues probably that you would term as the major challenges in this kind of a business that you've been running for all these years?
We cover all the African sub-Saharan African regions, and the mistake that we've made in the past is that we've treated all those regions like we've treated, say, South Africa. It just doesn't work. What you need is regionalization, you need local support. So the East African region is identified as our biggest growth area. So setting up an office in Kenya that can support the East African and broader Central African markets, we know that's the right thing to do. The other markets we're going to have to let sit for now until we set up regional offices in those areas as well. But I think the mistakes that I could say were that we really hadn't done that until now. But in the short time that we have done that, we've seen just an amazing turnaround, just in terms of the ability to interact with clients. The fact that when the question is asked, well, where are you based? And we say, look, we're based in Westlands in the centre of Nairobi. I mean, that's a game changer, really, and it's been fantastic.
Thank you so much for...
No, thank you.
And on that note, we wrap up Business Insight this week. Always a pleasure to have you on board. Join us again next week for another exciting edition of Business Insight. I'm Victoria Amunga. Good night and God bless.